Hi everyone, I'm Kamil Rog. I'm a town planner and an environmentalist, but I think we should all be environmentalists. We're all part of nature. We are all nature ourselves. So I'm going to talk about biodiversity and preserving the future, or preserving nature for future prosperity. And that'll be cool. So I think it's important to have a common language as a starting point so that we're all on the same page when we talk about nature. We know what we're talking about, what it means. So biodiversity is the wonderful variety of life on Earth, the variety of species in any given place, a place being a habitat, which hosts all the different organisms, all the different interactions that go on in there. And finally, natural capital is essentially the meaning or the value of nature and how we term it. So natural capital refers to the stocks, so what we own in terms of nature, how we get benefits from it, so the value it creates to businesses, and also how it flows in between those two things. So natural capital allows us to look at nature as an asset, not as a cost. Natural capital is determined by biodiversity, so it's upheld by the ability of those species to survive, to provide productive ecosystems, and we're currently facing a biodiversity crisis, as we all know, with a great extinction happening partly because of the work in the construction industry and development. And these 5 main drivers of species loss actually come from us in the development industry. So all of them can be related in some way to essentially us spreading invasive species, us creating pollution. And so those are the challenges there to address to make sure that we can keep productive natural systems. And this results in shifting ecological baselines where each generation, having inherited a worse environment than before, expects less from it. This is exemplified in the fisheries in Canada, where they essentially found that each generation of fishermen expected to catch less fish and smaller ones because of the fact that they were overfished before. You can also see it in the bison. So obviously the great extinction in North America, we lost many bison, and we now go and visit national parks where we reserve them in small pockets, but there's something that was abundant previously. So it's important to be aware of how essentially we have lost that abundance. And an example in the English countryside, the English fens, in the 16th century, Elizabeth I had a banquet of all of those amazing species for food. I'm a vegetarian, so I wouldn't approve of it, but it goes to show what the fens were able to produce at the time before we drained them. In the 17th century, we drained the fens, so Cambridgeshire, east of England, to create agricultural landscapes, but that meant that we lost all those wonderful species. And in doing so, we sort of lost something that we didn't know we had, and we can't return to it now without significant investment. However, things are looking up. So you can see here an article from last year. Beavers are returning to London through intervention, through active work to return them. And it can feel quite alien. It made the news, the fact there's a beaver in London, but a few hundred years ago, there would have been plenty of them around. It's just that we've lost that baseline. And baselines also apply to the built environment in the same way. So the loss of cultural heritage on the high street, the loss of nice frontages, the loss of beauty and design, as we've had from last year's planning white paper, the loss of public toilets being available. So it's important to think about baselines in all frames. And so these questions I've posed here get us to think about what are the baselines that we engage with and how do we influence them? How can the projects we work on be nature positive and people positive to make sure that future baselines are greater than what we started with? Thank you.